Betrayed. The fanatical-minded mullahs expected all young Iranian revolutionaries to immediately assimilate to Muhammad's 1400-year-old Bedouin culture, which promulgated the belief that all other groups had to disappear. They believed that their party was the only Islamic party to have the right to exist. Only the party of Allah, Hezbollah, will triumph, so the Quran says. And we were expected to motivate our own countrymen to fulfill the commands of Muhammad against our own people. We were unable to connect what we believed about Islam with the reality we saw unfolding around us, so we began to blame the mullahs for the violence and dissension. Without ever knowing true Islam, we called it perfect and blamed the mullahs when things began to sour. We proclaimed that they could not be real followers of our perfect Islam, and it was they who had corrupted its teachings. This blame game is still a big problem for Muslims, because they're quick to accuse other Muslims of fanaticism and terrorism without knowing that Islam itself promotes this very behavior, and it is this ignorance which causes violence and hostility between Islamic factions. We were revolutionaries, but our faith and minds were shaped by a royal culture that respected other beliefs and values. Iran, or Persia, was the country of great kings who respected the beliefs of all tribes and nationalities in their kingdom, and they left this legacy for Iranians to pass on from generation to generation. Prior to the revolution, no one imagined that other political parties would be suppressed under the rule of the Ayatollah Khomeini. He promised that all groups would have the freedom to run their own campaigns after the revolution. He even stated that the governing system in Iran would be based on the decision of people by a referendum. He never spoke of a system that would be governed by Islam. He made it very clear that mullahs would take no part in politics. They would only be allowed to teach spirituality. The Ayatollah Khomeini knew that Iranians were an educated people who would not trust relatively uneducated mullahs. He kept his motives and plans well hidden, knowing that he would lose the people's trust and confidence if he showed his true intentions and possibly deny himself victory. Those mullahs in league with him never spoke against his statements before the revolution, knowing he was working to deceive Iranians and the world. The mullahs rushed into government offices, occupying political positions immediately after the revolution, making it difficult for the interim secular government to function. The interim prime minister, using an Iranian idiom, once said, "Ayatollah Khomeini entrusted the sword to us, but we have the handle of the sword. The edges are in the hands of the mullahs." He was trying to say that the Ayatollah's colleagues acted as obstacles in his government, making it difficult for him to use his autonomy. The mullah's takeover of government positions was the opposite of what the Ayatollah Khomeini had promised to Iranians before the revolution. Khomeini not only kept quiet, but supported the mullah's siege of the government, shocking many revolutionaries who trusted him. He exploited our zealous loyalty to himself, and because of this he destroyed our trust in him and the mullahs surrounding him. As a result, our hopes for a free Iran were dashed. Why would a grand leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini, lie to millions? He was only doing as the Quran had instructed. He was allowed to lie under certain circumstances in order to gain power for the establishment of the real Islam. Before the revolution, people thought the Ayatollah's entry to Iran would end 1,400 years of conflict between Iranian and Saudi Arabian cultures. They also thought that they would have the opportunity to serve their country as Iranians. But in reality, he was secretly working to give priority to Muhammad's Arabian culture and language. His lies were a huge burden on Iranian Muslims who did not want to be yoked to Muhammad's 7th century nomadic culture. In 1,400 years of battle, the Iranian culture lost little to Arabian culture. Now the Ayatollah Khomeini, a righteous Muslim, came with the most deceptive principles of Islam to put an end to the remnants of Iranian culture. This became an issue of dispute among many Muslim revolutionaries. Was our priority to be Iranian first or Muslim first? Like many others, I was caught in this dualistic war, struggling with what would be my identity, Iranian or Arabian. Should I be Iranian first and then Muslim, or vice versa? We wish the Ayatollah Khomeini would stay faithful in his promises to Iranians so that Iran would not stray away from its historical roots. His lies caused us to lose face among many Iranians who accepted our call to support the Ayatollah Khomeini prior to the revolution. Lack of experience and our own busy revolutionary activities made us unable to evaluate whether or not the Ayatollah Khomeini would be able to lead us after the revolution. We never imagined that his great success in leading the revolution did not mean that he would be successful in leading the future government. We also did not realize that destroying government was much easier than building it. We were driven to place our whole focus on overthrowing the rule of the Shah and capturing the country. We had placed all eggs into the basket of learning the principles and practices of demolition and destruction. We did not have time to seek or evaluate the future or what principles were necessary for running a country. On the other hand, we did not have practical experience of participatory leadership practically. Political leadership in the Middle East was absolutely centralized because of Islam, and obedience was absolute. We were obligated to leave every decision to our top leader. There were some people who criticized the Ayatollah Khomeini before the revolution, challenging him with the accusation that he did not have any plan for a future government. His response, however, was that everybody had to focus on the destruction of the Shah's regime and leave the future to the future. His entire focus was only to paralyze the monarchy in Iran and make his way to the top. His deceptive leadership and our blind obedience ultimately led the country to catastrophe after the revolution. With the tensions and uncertainties facing us, I decided that it was best to bide my time before rushing to join a particular side. My desire to make an educated decision led me to attend meetings to strengthen my knowledge of Islam. The Ayatollah Dr. Morteza Motari was one of my favorite speakers, and my frequent attendance at his lectures gave me the opportunity to ask him for a solution to the tensions among Muslim leaders. Motari hated the tensions among leaders, as it was going to diminish the power of revolutionaries against Israel and the West. He said that Rafsanjani, Beheshti, and Khamenei were three of the most dangerous of all mullahs, and their intent was only to serve their thirst for power, and their ambition would subvert Iran's revolution. He also advised me to stay away from them. His advice confirmed my decision to hold off joining either side of the mullahs, even as tension between them grew daily. A public referendum was held to decide between a ruling system, a republican system, or some other form of government. Before the revolution, the Ayatollah Khomeini told the people of Iran that whatever they decided, he would bow to it. To the astonishment of many, he did not stay faithful to his promises yet again, but insisted on the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran rather than only the Republic of Iran. The addition of the word Islamic to the Republic of Iran meant that the country would be run under pure Islamic principles known as Sharia, which does not give rights to any other Islamic or non-Islamic groups. Rights were to be given to Hezbollah only, the militia of Khomeini. This would be at the cost of all other groups and result in bloodshed. Under the Sharia, every group thinks of itself as the only legitimate group of Allah and of others as illegitimate. Therefore, they must be destroyed. The history of these conflicts and bloodshed in Islam began immediately after the death of Muhammad, when his in-laws sparked the Sunni movement and his son-in-law the Shiite movement. Since that time, radical followers of these two schools of Islam have been slaughtering each other in the name of their faith. Now, the history of Islam would repeat itself with the rise of Khomeini, and the Islamic world was to witness bloodshed again.